This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, I get to Moed. Welcome, everyone. We're continuing in Mishna Berura Daf Hashavua. We're going to do a double header today. It should be a little bit shorter than yesterday. And we're beginning now Siman Lamed Gimel. I think it was a major accomplishment that we were zeicha to learn through Siman Lamed Beis. We now begin Siman Lamed Gimel. Din Tikunei Ton V'Din Hartzuos. The laws of fixing tefillin and the laws of the straps. Im the skalkel are shall shnei batim mi batei harosh. Let's say the hide of two batim of the batei harosh got ruined. Zeh itzel zeh, one next to the other. So here, let's get the picture up. Sorry, I guess it was on gray setting this morning. Let's make this a little bigger. One second. Yeah, okay. So let's say you see here, two of the batim next to each other got a little bit ruined. Ematfilin yeshenim. If the yeshanim, if the tefillin are old, psulim, they're pasulim. Him chadashim, they're new ksheim, they're kosher. Kozman she'ar moishav habatim kayim. So long as the leather that houses the batim are extant. Haga says Rama. Gam habatim tzrichim lios kayamim. The batim themselves need to be extant. Ela shenikru ksas, but they're slightly torn. B'yesharm lehepach. Some say the exact opposite. B'yeshanim kshem, if they're old, they're kosher of chadashim sulim. V'niroli, says Rama, the yesh lahachmer livsto b'shneim. You should be machmer and pasel both of them. Says the Mishna Berura, niskalkel. Her shenifsak v'nasa kara. It got a little bit ruined and torn, and it's missing mi batei harosh, right? Because we know the shalrosh has four batim. Avlam nasa kara b'habai shal yad pasol. If, let's see, this is picture 2. Where's picture 2? Oh, this is picture 2 over here. If there's a tear in the shalrosh, pasul in the shalyad, it's pasul kolyama b'chalinian afsha titura kayemes. Even though the titura is completely extant, like we have over here in this picture. So you have a little tear in the bias, even though the titura is extant. By the shalrosh, you have other batim. So if one is torn, it's not the end of the world if because you have others that are complete. You don't have such an option when it comes to the shell yad. If it's torn, it's torn. Okay, zeh itzel zeh. So we say zeh itzel zeh rotzolim the habatim him smuchim zal zeh. The batim are one next to each other. Afilu in hakram smuchin, even if the tiers are not next to each other. Kagoin shekara echad b'habayis hasheni b'doifnai hayamini. Let's say you have one tier in the second bias on the right wall, the kara hasheni b'habayis gimel, and the second tier on the third wall. Loishna b'doifnai hayamini ayasmoili va'afilu im kara zelamala v'zelamata. Here, so for example, in all of these cases, let's say you have here, their tiers are right next to each other. Sort of, this one, the tier is on the right wall, and here the tier is on the right wall. Here are the tiers on the right wall, and the tiers on the left wall. Here, the right wall, left wall, up, one is higher, one is lower. Certainly, if they're right opposite each other, they're going to be pasal. Now, what's the difference between whether the tefillin are old or new? Why, if they're old, are they pasal and they're new, they're kosher, according to the first daya? Does Mishna Berura decline a skalkulu machmas yoshim? They're already ruined because of their oldness. The other opinion holds just the opposite. If it's new, that shows that the leather was no good to begin with. Even because it tore so quickly. Even if none of these reasons are applicable. Let's say the tear happened with a knife, yesh lahachmer, we are machmer. Doesn't matter why it tore. It tore because it's old. It tore because it got torn with a knife. Kalmakam sided b'sefer. What does it say in your Mishna Berura? Peites. Pischei Tshuva. What's Peites?
Pischei Tshuva.
Pischei Tshuva. Thank you. The Dibuk Mahani. Pischei Tshuva is inclined to say that gluing it helps. Im anu yoidim she'en ha'ar makokol. If you know that the leather was not inherently flawed, gluing helps. Even those who make tone out of one R, if there's a tear, gluing helps. Okay. Chadashim kasherim. If they're old, they're possible, but if they're new, they're kosher. And he says, even if the tear are in two different batim and two of its walls, they will be pasal. This is diagram. Let's look over here. This is chaf. Va'afilu ches tes yud chaf. Haker b'shnei abatim b'shnei daf noseim. Ches. Here are these cases. Even if it's on two walls, on both, meaning, but even if both walls are torn on two batim, right? So you basically have four tiers. Even if you have, that's the case. You have two walls, both walls are torn on both batim are torn on both walls. It is okay, according to this daya, as long as the ar moshav habatim is kayam. What does that mean? Hainu hatitura. Let's see how he explains it here. That's lamed. As long as the titura is kayam. The Beis Yosef explains that it needs to be shalem on all sides. The loy machshirinon elamash shenikra mi b'fnim bein bayis lebayis. We only are machshir if it tears on the inside between bayis lebayis. Let's see if he explains what that means. We're only machshir if it tears from the interior between bayis and bayis lebayis. V'zo gam kein das Ramah shatikul halacha. This is the opinion of the Ramah who copies lahalacha. He writes because of the gam habatim tzrichim lios kayamim ela shenikru ktsas perush shenikru bein bayis lebayis aval hatstadim tzrichim lios shleimim. The edges need to be shalem. Let's see if he explains this at all. What does it mean the edges need to be shleimim? He doesn't explain so clearly. Va'afilu tera b'bayis echad. Even if it's torn in one bayis, im nasa mi b'chutz levad, if it's only on the outside, gam ken yesh lahachmer. So let's read this one more time. Let's read Vav one more time. Kayam. Hainu hatitura. One second. Let me just get my bearings with this picture. Where does the picture start in terms of Mishna Berura Sivkat on Vav? Kayam. Where does Kayam begin? Okay. Kayam. Okay, over here. Let's try to read this over here in the picture. He's quoting the Mishna Berura word for word. Haina hatitura. Aval b'Beis Yosef dermas chalvra pirish debaishu shleimim mikol hatstadim. It has to be whole from all sides. Again, the Ramah says that if they're chadashim, they're kosher. Kolzman that the ar moshav habatim is kayam. and the bias itself has to be kayam.
It means the outside, around the outside.
So the outside means the four sides of the square. The four sides of the square.
Yeah.
Right. So as
this
long
whole
as
discussion is about what's going on the inside.
The Rama says, the Mechaber says, Kol zman she'or moishav habatim kayim. You need the bottom to be kayim. The Rama is adding the bias itself has to be kayim, which is according to the Mishna Berura interprets the titura, and the Beis Yosef says it has to be shalnei called stadim. The loy machshirinan elamash shenikra mibefnim bein bias lebias, but not on the outside. V'zeu gam kedas Rama shetikol halacha v'kasav gam abatim tzrichim lios kayamim. Ela shenikru ktsas, it's torn a little bit. Perush shenikru bein bias lebias aval stadim tzrichim lios shleimim. So the stadim means around the four sides. V'afilu kara bebayis echad imnasi v'chasavad gam ken yesh lahachmer, because it can't be torn on the outside.
The edges, all the edges around the bias.
Okay. Let's see one more Mishna Berura for the first segment. The Ramah brings another daya that some say lehepach, that yeshenim are kshem, chadashim are psulim, like we saw before. The reason why chadashim are psulim is because it shows it was never good to begin with. Alkain yesh livsa mashra gilan asayfim sh'osim adal batim v'noisim osim b'tfus. One, we would have to passel what the Seifim typically do when they make 4 batim and they put it in a mold. They cut from the hide between one bias and another, so it doesn't shrivel up and protrude. They patch up from the inside, so they somehow do some kind of surgery here. They cut off a piece to avoid any kind of protrusion or bumps, and they cover it up. That's going to be a problem because it's going to be torn. It's torn, and we're machmer if it's torn, it's puzzle both on the inside and the outside. So that will be what we call, that will be the first segment. And we'll put a pause here for a minute.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.